Okay, let's dive in. That word training,
Yeah.
what does it uh, what does it make you think of?
hmm
Because, for so many of us, it conjures up this very specific image, doesn't it?
It really does.
Like maybe sitting in some bland room, fluorescent lights, maybe
Okay.
buzzing overhead.
Yeah, staring at slides, someone pointing.
Exactly. Someone pointing at a screen, telling you exactly what to do, what buttons to press, maybe step-by-step procedures. It often feels kind of formal, passive.
Disconnected, maybe, from the actual job you do day to day.
Totally. Like you're being, I don't know, processed, learning this standard thing, often at a pace that's not quite right, either too fast or too slow.
And you're just waiting for that moment you might actually need it, which might be, well, ages away, or maybe never.
Right. And that very specific, maybe, let's say, slightly outdated mental picture,
Yeah.
that's exactly where the source material we're looking at today kicks off.
Yeah, the core idea it puts forward is that while training has been the kind of default word for helping people adapt for, well, decades,
The go-to word, yeah.
the go-to word, but the speed of technology now, it's
Yeah.
just rendered that whole traditional concept and that image pretty much obsolete.
It just doesn't connect anymore, does it?
Yeah.
To how quickly people actually need to learn to keep up.
Exactly. It's out of sync.
And this isn't just about semantics, like swapping words. That's what's really interesting in this article, Upskilling and Reskilling for Technology Adoption by Ravi Sandhu. He's arguing this shift in language, from training to these terms upskilling and reskilling, it reflects something much deeper, like a seismic shift in how we have to approach learning.
Yeah, adaptation too. And even thriving, really, with all this new tech constantly emerging. It's a whole mindset change, not just fiddling with vocabulary.
So that's our mission for this deep dive, right? To really unpack that transformation.
Yeah, we want to get beyond just the terms and understand why that old view of training just isn't cutting it anymore.
And explore what upskilling and reskilling actually mean according to the source. How are they different? How are they more effective for, well, today and tomorrow?
We'll look at the history, how we got that training model in the first place, and then dig into the specifics of these newer approaches, using the insights from Mr. Sandhu's work.
Absolutely. And to really get why this shift is so big, the source takes us back, way back. It suggests the roots of that training model we often picture. They're like deeply embedded in the early industrial revolutions.
Understanding that history is key, apparently. It helps explain why just sticking with the old training idea is actually holding organizations back now.
It really puts it in perspective. Mr. Sandhu points out, yeah, training was the go-to word. And look, it probably worked okay for its time.
Sure, for that context.
But its limits are just, well, blindingly obvious now with how fast things change.
Yeah.
The methods that worked for one era, they're just not right for this one.
They're mismatched.
And the article is really clear that modern learning, this upskilling, reskilling stuff, it's totally different from that passive sit and get experience.
Right, it's not just absorbing information someone throws at you.
No. It's presented as way more active, like you're actively applying what you learn. You're experimenting, maybe iterating.
Trying things out, seeing what works, what doesn't.
Yeah. And solving problems that maybe don't have a neat prepackaged answer. And, this is crucial, the source says it requires unlearning.
Ah, yes. Unlearning old habits, old processes, maybe even old ways of thinking that just don't work anymore with the new tech.
Think about that, the muscle memory you build up, the workflows that become second nature. Sometimes the hardest part isn't learning the new tool.
It's letting go of the old way, breaking that habit. That takes conscious effort.
Exactly. And the reason a lot of what still gets called training feels kind of stuck in the past. The source argues it's because these practices are entrenched in the methods from the first and second industrial revolutions.
Entrenched is a strong word, like dug in deep and hard to remove.
It makes sense though, right?
Yeah.
Think about those early revolutions. First one, mechanization, water power, steam, shifting from craft work to factories.
Power looms, steam engines.
Then the second, mass production, assembly lines, electricity, just scaling everything up, standardizing it. Mr. Sandhu notes that naturally led to learning that prioritized conformity.
Of course. The assembly line is the classic example. Your value was doing one specific task over and over, exactly the same way.
Variation was bad. Efficiency came from everyone doing their bit perfectly, predictably.
So training was designed for that, make sure everyone can do their assigned task, often a pretty simple one, exactly as prescribed. It wasn't about thinking outside the box.
No, it was about reliable execution, Conformity was the goal of the learning because conformity was the key to production.
And the focus back then was mostly physical, right? How to work the machine, how to handle the materials, how to stay safe around this big, new, powerful equipment.
Yeah, the source makes this really interesting point. Back then, physical safety was absolutely paramount, but today, the focus has shifted massively to using and applying intelligence.
That's a huge distinction the source draws. We've moved from economies built on physical labor and standardization
Making things.
to economies built on information, complex problem solving, data, creativity, working with complex systems.
So those old training methods, designed for teaching someone a standard physical task or a simple mechanical process.
Utterly insufficient. They just don't equip people to apply intelligence, adapt on the fly, or navigate these complex digital environments we work in now.
And this mismatch, the source says, this is exactly why so many organizations struggle to really modernize effectively.
It's like being unaware, or maybe, as the source hints, sometimes aware, but just resistant to acting on these huge seismic shifts in the world of work.
And clinging to that outdated idea of training the classroom, the passivity, the focus on conformity, it's not just inefficient anymore. It's a symptom of not quite grasping how much the game has changed.
Yeah, it's like trying to, I don't know, run a smartphone on steam power. The underlying principles have changed so much that the old fuel just won't work. It actually gets in the way.
We need a new approach, a new way to fuel learning and adaptation for this new reality.
Definitely. And to really hammer home how much things have changed, Mr. Sandhu uses this framework of the 5 industrial revolutions. It provides that sweep of history, that context.
Yeah, it really helps visualize the escalating demands on skills. So let's walk through them quickly.
Okay, so the first industrial revolution.
Right. Mechanization, water, steam power, think textiles, early factories. The learning challenge was basic operation, maintenance, understanding these new machines physically.
Then the second, mass production, assembly line, electricity, amplifying everything. Learning was about specific repetitive tasks.
Yeah.
Efficiency, standardization, being that reliable cog.
Into the third, computers and automation. Now we're into digital systems. Learning shifts, interacting with interfaces, maybe basic programming, managing automated processes. Information work starts, but still quite structured.
Then the fourth, which the source says we're in now, cyber-physical systems, IoT, AI, networks, everything's connected, lines blurring.
The learning need explodes in complexity, right? Understanding systems, data analysis, digital skills, working with intelligent tech. Managing complexity, basically.
Exactly. And looking ahead, the source talks about the emerging fifth industrial revolution.
This one sounds different. Personalized, human-centric, sustainable.
Yeah, it's less about just more tech and more about how we integrate it, especially AI. How do we use it to boost human capabilities, solve big problems like sustainability?
Create more personalized stuff.
Right. And the learning there, it's about high-level collaboration with AI, navigating ambiguity, creative problem solving, ethics, focusing on those uniquely human things, empathy, creativity, strategy, things AI can't just replicate.
Wow. Seeing it laid out like that, you really see the progression from physical tasks to simple digital to complex networks, now to human AI collaboration.
It makes it crystal clear why the training methods born in the first and second revolutions, focused on standardization and physical tasks, are just fundamentally mismatched for the needs of the fourth and fifth.
Completely out of step.
Which brings us back to upskilling and reskilling. These aren't just buzzwords. The source positions them as the learning strategies designed for this modern reality.
Okay, let's define them clearly based on the source. First, upskilling. What is it?
So upskilling is specifically about adapting from how you work now,
Your current way.
to a new way of working that's possible because of new technology. It's about enhancing your existing role, making you better, faster, more capable within your field by using new tools or methods.
So you're not changing careers.
No, not fundamentally. You're upgrading your capabilities right where you are.
The source uses that marketing professional example, which I thought was really good.
Yeah, it's relatable. Someone skilled in traditional marketing strategy, campaigns, consumer behavior, their core expertise is solid.
Right. Upskilling for them isn't learning marketing 101 again.
No way. It's learning how to use, say, a new AI analytics platform, something that lets them analyze customer data in ways they just couldn't before, at scale, super fast.
So they're not suddenly becoming a data scientist.
Exactly. They're learning to use the tool to enhance their marketing decisions. The source says this lets the AI do the heavy lifting on the data crunching side, finding patterns, maybe predicting outcomes,
Which frees up the human.
to focus on the higher level stuff, the creative strategy, the messaging that connects emotionally, building partnerships, the brand story. Stuff AI can't really do.
So upskilling helps people work with the tech, move up the value chain. It's augmentation, not replacement, using your existing smarts with new tools.
Precisely. And the source identifies 3 core things that make upskilling effective, things that really set it apart from that old training model.
Okay, what are they?
First, and this is huge now, learning in the moment of need.
Just-in-time learning.
Exactly. The source stresses why this is critical. Tech updates constantly, new features pop up, problems arise unexpectedly. You just can't wait for the next scheduled training session.
No, if you're stuck on something now, you need help now.
Right. Learning has to be right there, instantly accessible the second you hit a wall or need to figure out how to use a new function to get your work done.
The source calls it providing bite-sized, relevant information.
Yeah.
Not a huge info dump, just what you need right when you need it.
Yeah, like imagine you need to run a specific report in some new software. The help is right there, in context, maybe a quick video or steps just for that task, not a 30-minute overview of the whole system.
That makes so much sense. Cuts down frustration, speeds things up massively.
Definitely. Second element, building a community of learners.
So not learning alone in a silo?
Right. Modern learning, especially with complex tech, isn't solitary. The source points out that challenges often need collective brain power to solve.
Sharing knowledge, best practices.
Yeah. Creating spaces, online forums, team chats, maybe peer coaching where people can ask questions, share what worked for them, troubleshoot together. It accelerates learning for everyone.
Leverages different perspectives, too.
Absolutely. It builds this shared understanding of how to actually make the new tools work in the real world. Very different from just one person reading a manual.
Okay, so learning in the moment, learning together.
Yeah.
What's the third?
Focusing on application.
Making it practical.
Immediately practical. Upskilling has to be about gaining a skill you can use right away to solve a current problem or improve something you're working on now.
Not just theoretical knowledge for someday, maybe.
Exactly. It's about directly translating learning into doing, into better performance. The source contrasts this with traditional training where you might learn a ton of stuff, but maybe only a fraction is relevant to your immediate job, so you forget the rest.
Okay, so upskilling. Timely, contextual, social, and super practical. Enhancing your current role with new tech skills.
That's the essence of it, which then sets it the contrast with the second term, reskilling.
Right. If upskilling is adapting your current job, reskilling sounds big.
It is. The source explains reskilling is about a much more significant change. Often, it involves transitioning from one kind of career or role to a completely different one.
Wow. Okay, so not just tweaking skills, but maybe building a whole new foundation.
Often, yes. It could be someone moving from a role that's being automated into a totally new area that's growing, like data analysis or cybersecurity or green energy tech.
Because it's such a big shift, the source says reskilling needs a more comprehensive strategy.
Much more in-depth, yeah. More structured than upskilling. It's not just learning on the fly. It's usually a deliberate, focused effort over time to build a whole new set of competencies.
Makes sense. And Mr. Sandhu outlines 3 core parts to doing reskilling effectively, again, reflecting this more comprehensive nature.
Okay, first, and this is the absolute starting point, identifying skill gaps.
Figuring out what's missing.
But it's more than just a quick check. It needs a really thorough assessment. What skills does the person have now? Technical, cognitive, soft skills, everything. Versus what skills are absolutely required for the new target role. That gap could be huge.
And you need to understand that gap precisely to plan the learning, right?
Exactly. Without that clear picture, you can't design the right path. Second component, designing targeted learning experiences.
So not one size fits all.
Definitely not. Reskilling demands personalized learning paths. It has to be tailored. You look at the individual's background, what skills they can transfer, and then build specific modules or experiences to address the crucial skills they lack for the new job.
So it's building on what's there, but filling the specific gaps needed for the new direction. Very customized.
Very. And the third component is providing support and mentorship.
The human element again.
Hugely important here. Making a big career change is tough. It's not just about learning technical stuff, it's navigating a new identity, maybe a new industry culture.
Yeah, that could be daunting.
So the source highlights how vital ongoing human support is. guidance, coaching, encouragement, and connecting people with mentors.
Mentors already working in that new field.
Ideally, yes, they can offer real-world insights, practical advice, help build confidence, maybe even open doors to networks. That guidance is key to helping people stick with it and succeed in the transition.
So reskilling, strategic, needs deep assessment, personalized learning, and strong human support, equipping people for a totally new kind of work.
That's the picture the source paints.
You know, what really stands out across both upskilling and reskilling in this source is the massive emphasis on the human side of it all.
Yes, it comes through so strongly. Adopting new tech isn't fundamentally about the machines or the software. It's about changing how people work, think, interact, behave.
It's a human change process facilitated by tech, not the other way around.
That's a great way to put it. And the source is adamant. To get the maximum benefit from new tech, you absolutely must bring in experts who get how human skills are developed, how people learn, how they adapt to change.
And these aren't necessarily the IT folks who installed the system.
Not usually, no. They're experts in learning science, behavioral psychology, organizational change, people who understand the human dynamics. Mr. Sandhu actually lists 6 specific ways these experts make a difference.
Oh, interesting. What are they?
Okay, first, they diagnose skill gaps beyond the obvious. They look deeper than just, can you use this software feature? They see the underlying thinking skills, the problem-solving approaches, the behavioral shifts needed.
So a more holistic view of the required skills.
Right. Second, they design targeted, human-centric learning. They build experiences that actually work with how people learn best, how they integrate things into messy real-world jobs. Not just efficient information delivery, but effective human adaptation.
Makes sense.
Third, they actively build that community of learners we talked about. They know how to foster collaboration, create psychological safety for asking questions, leverage peer support.
Okay, what else?
Fourth, they champion the change and actually program manage the whole skilling effort. They provide leadership, structure, keep it on track. They make sure learning isn't just an afterthought tacked onto the tech rollout.
So they drive it.
Fifth, they focus relentlessly on application and reinforcement. Learning isn't done when the workshop ends. They build in ways to practice, get feedback, apply skills on the job so the change actually sticks.
Prevents that knowledge decay we mentioned.
Exactly. And sixth, they inspire people and help them see how the tech can augment what they already do well. They frame it as an opportunity to become more capable, more creative, not just a threat or a burden.
Helping people connected to their own potential.
Yeah. And this deep focus on human-centric learning, guided by experts, it ties right back to that vision of the Fifth Industrial Revolution, doesn't it?
It really does. Personalized, human-centric, sustainable. The learning approach has to match that future. It's a world away from those standardized impersonal training methods of the past. So if we pull back and look at the whole picture from this deep dive, the source is really arguing for a fundamental shift in thinking.
Yeah, ditch the outdated baggage associated with the word training. Leave behind those images of passive conformity from a bygone industrial era.
And instead, fully embrace these modern concepts, upskilling and reskilling.
Because these terms, as the source defines them, represent learning strategies actually built for the world we live in now. Fast change, complex tech, the need for human adaptability, the demands of the fourth and fifth industrial revolutions.
And by thinking and acting in these terms, the source suggests that's how organizations, and frankly us as individuals too, can move beyond the limitations of traditional training.
We can adopt strategies that are actually fit for purpose in the age of AI and constant digital transformation.
And the goal, the source puts it really powerfully, helping people truly thrive in the age of new technology.
Thriving, not just surviving. It comes from adapting effectively, continuously learning, and really leveraging our human strengths alongside these powerful new tools.
It really makes you think about the power of language, doesn't it? How the words we use shape our approach. Training might steer us towards old assumptions.
While upskilling and reskilling point towards a different path dynamic, applied, collaborative, human-focused. It's more than just labels. It's like a different operating system for learning.
A mindset shift, like you said earlier. Recognizing learning now is less about memorizing stuff.
And more about building the capacity to think critically, adapt, learn quickly, work with others, and use technology effectively to amplify our own intelligence.
Okay, so let's bring this home for you, the listener. We've explored this source, arguing that training, with its old industrial baggage, is holding us back.
And that upskilling and reskilling represent a more active, applied, community-focused, human-centric approach essential for today.
So here's the final thought, building on the source's points about learning in the moment, community application, and human-centric design.
How might your personal approach to learning something new, whether it's for work, a hobby, anything, how might it change if you consciously thought about it as upskilling or maybe even reskilling instead of just training?
What specific things might you do differently? Would you search for quick, in-the-moment resources when you get stuck?
Would you actively try to connect with others learning the same thing, maybe online or in person?
Would you push yourself to immediately apply what you just learned to a real task,
Yeah.
even a small one, instead of just filing the information away?
It's an interesting lens to apply. Could reframing it like that fundamentally change how effectively we learn and adapt in this constantly changing world?
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into upskilling and reskilling.